They say the road never sleeps, but some nights, it watches? At 2:17 a.m., a trucker noticed headlights behind him on an empty highway. No matter how fast he went, they stayed the same distance away. When he finally pulled over, the road behind him was completely empty. That was the moment he realized he wasn't being followed by a vehicle. These are 4 true stories from truck drivers who were followed late at night on isolated roads. Encounters that left them shaken long after the engine stopped. If you drive at night, or if you've ever felt that uneasy sense of being watched on an empty highway, stay with us. And if you enjoy real, true horror stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. New stories every week. Let's begin with the first account. I've been driving long haul for almost 12 years, and there are things you learn to accept early on. Fatigue, silence, the way your thoughts get louder when the road stays straight for too long. But what happened to me one winter night in northern Wyoming was different. It didn't feel like exhaustion or imagination. It felt deliberate. It was just after 1:30 a.m. I was hauling a refrigerated load, heading east on a stretch of highway that barely sees traffic after midnight. The weather was clear, cold enough that the stars looked sharp, like they could cut you. I'd been listening to the hum of the engine and the rhythmic slap of tires against asphalt for hours. That's when I noticed the headlights. They were far back at first. 2 white points in my mirrors, steady and centered. That wasn't unusual. You learn not to fixate on every car behind you. But after about 10 minutes, they were still there. Same distance, same position. I sped up slightly. The headlights matched my speed. I slowed down. They did too. That's when my stomach tightened. I checked my mirrors again, adjusting them just to be sure I wasn't misreading the angle. The road behind me was perfectly straight. No turns, no on-ramps. No towns for at least 40 miles. Whoever was behind me had been there for a while. I reached for the CB radio. Any drivers eastbound on 90, you seeing a vehicle riding your tail? Static answered me. No voices. Just that familiar hiss that fills the cab when no one's listening. I tried again a few minutes later. Same result. By 2:00 a.m., the feeling in my chest had turned heavy. The headlights hadn't gained or lost an inch. It was like they were locked in place, perfectly measured. That's not how real drivers behave. People drift. They pass. They back off. These didn't. I told myself it was just another truck pacing me. Maybe someone tired. Maybe someone bored. But the longer I watched them, the more wrong it felt. The light didn't bounce. It didn't shake with the road. It stayed unnaturally smooth. At 2:12 a.m., I saw the first mile marker for a small rest pull off. Just a wide patch of gravel and a single dim light pole. I didn't want to stop, but I needed to know. I slowed and signaled, easing onto the shoulder. The headlights behind me slowed too. My pulse started pounding. I pulled fully into the gravel and brought the truck to a stop. The engine idled, loud in the sudden stillness. I waited. The headlights stayed on the road. They didn't pass. They didn't pull in behind me. They just sat there, facing me from the highway, unmoving. After a full minute, I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. I expected to see the shape of a cab, a trailer, something solid behind the lights. There was nothing. No vehicle, no outline. Just headlights floating at road level, perfectly aligned, humming softly in the distance. Then they turned off. The highway went completely dark. I sat frozen, hands clenched around the wheel, my breath shallow and fast. I told myself it was a reflection, some trick of the road. But deep down, I knew better. I'd driven this stretch dozens of times. I knew what headlights looked like. I knew what vehicles looked like. That wasn't either. I didn't stay there. I threw the truck into gear and pulled back onto the highway, my eyes scanning every inch of pavement ahead of me. The road stretched empty in both directions. For the next hour, I didn't check my mirrors. I was too afraid of what I might see. It wasn't until I reached a truck stop near the state line that I finally relaxed enough to breathe normally. I parked under bright lights, surrounded by other rigs, the familiar noise grounding me. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The dash camera I keep running at all times had stopped recording at exactly 2:12 a.m. No error message, no power loss. The footage just ended. I don't drive that highway anymore. I'll add hours to a route if it means avoiding that stretch. Because whatever followed me that night wasn't in a hurry. It wasn't trying to pass. It was pacing me. What makes this story unsettling isn't the headlights. It's the intention behind them. Real drivers get tired. They drift. They pass. They make mistakes. Whatever stayed behind him that night did none of those things. It matched his speed perfectly. It waited when he waited, and when he stopped, it watched. If something can follow you for miles without ever revealing itself, the question isn't what it was. It's why it chose you. If you've ever been through this, describe it in the comments so we can talk about this situation. If you're enjoying it, leave a like. Let's move on to the next story. I've always liked night driving more than daytime runs. Fewer cars, less noise. The road feels honest when it's dark, like it stops pretending to be safe. That night, I was hauling a dry load through southern Utah, heading west on a long, empty stretch of highway I'd driven dozens of times before. It was calm. No wind, no weather. The kind of night where the darkness feels thick, but not threatening. At least, not at first. It was just after midnight when I noticed headlights behind me. They were far enough back that I didn't think much of them. Two white points sitting low in my mirrors, steady and centered. Probably another trucker settling into a night drive, I thought. Happens all the time. Drivers pace each other without even realizing it. I kept my speed steady and focused on the road ahead. 15 minutes passed. The headlights were still there. Same distance. Same position. Perfectly aligned with the center of my trailer. That's when the thought crossed my mind. Not fear yet, just curiosity. Why hasn't he passed? Most drivers don't sit behind another rig that long unless traffic's heavy. And this highway was empty. No cars. No oncoming headlights. Nothing but black desert on both sides of the road. I nudged my speed up by 5 miles an hour. The headlights stayed exactly where they were. I eased back down. They eased back too. That small, quiet adjustment made something tighten in my chest. It wasn't panic. It was that early warning feeling, the one you learn not to ignore after enough years on the road. I checked my mirrors again, more deliberately this time. The road behind me was straight as a ruler. No turns, no exits. No place for another vehicle to have merged on unnoticed. I reached for the CB radio. Any drivers westbound out here? You got someone pacing you? Static filled the cab. I tried again a few minutes later, changing channels. Still nothing. No chatter. No late-night jokes. Just that empty hiss. By 12:45 a.m., the silence inside the cab felt heavier than usual. Even the engine noise seemed muted, like the sound was being swallowed before it could fully exist. I started noticing small details. The headlights behind me didn't sway with the road. They didn't bounce when the pavement dipped slightly. They didn't flare brighter when I passed reflective signs. They just stayed there, perfect, untouched. At one point, I deliberately drifted a little within my lane, just to see what would happen. The headlights didn't drift with me. They stayed locked dead center. My palms were sweating now, gripping the wheel harder than necessary. I told myself I was overthinking it. Fatigue plays tricks on you. Long hours make patterns where there aren't any. But fatigue doesn't explain precision. At 1:02 a.m., I saw the sign for a truck stop coming up, the only one for nearly 80 miles. A small place. Just fuel pumps, a diner, and a lot that barely filled on busy nights. I felt relief the moment I saw the lights. I signaled early and took the exit. The headlights followed. That was when the unease tipped into something colder. I pulled into the lot and parked under the brightest lights I could find, leaving the engine running. The sound of it idling felt grounding, like proof that I was still here, still in control. I waited. The vehicle behind me didn't pull in. Instead, it stopped at the very edge of the lot, right where the pavement met the highway. The headlights faced me. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield, trying to make out the shape of the cab, the height of a trailer, anything familiar. There was nothing. No silhouette, no reflective tape, no marker lights. Just two white points hovering too low to be a truck and too evenly spaced to be a car. Then something happened that made my breath catch in my throat. The headlights began to move. Not forward, not backward. They slid sideways, smooth, silent, gliding off the edge of the pavement and into the darkness beyond the truck stop, as if they were being carried rather than driven. No crunch of gravel, no engine noise, no fading glow. They simply vanished into the black. I sat there frozen, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my neck. My cab felt suddenly too small, like the darkness outside was pressing against the glass, waiting. After a long moment, I forced myself out of the truck and walked into the diner, needing light, sound people. The cashier looked up, surprised to see me. "Busy night?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She shook her head, dead quiet. "You're the only one I've seen in a while." I asked if she'd seen a truck pull in or leave. She frowned. "No, just you." I didn't argue. I didn't explain. There was nothing to explain. I left as soon as I could, pulling back onto the highway, with my mirrors angled slightly downward. I didn't want to see behind me. But even now, years later, when I drive that road at night, I feel it again. That feeling of being watched, not chased, not followed. I'm still unsure, was it paranormal? Or maybe someone trying to rob me, but gave up when they saw me stop? I think about it a lot, and I cling to that feeling to avoid giving way to the supernatural. What's terrifying here isn't the lights, it's the control. Whatever stayed behind him didn't rush. It didn't get impatient. It didn't make mistakes. It adjusted to him, studied him, and disengaged the moment it chose to. Some things on the road aren't trying to catch you. They're deciding if you matter enough to be remembered. Have you ever been through this before? Have you ever encountered a similar situation? Tell us about it in the comments. And if you want to send us your story, I'll leave the contact email in the description. Share the video and leave a like. I was about 4 hours into a night drive through western Kansas when it started. Flat land, no curves, no hills. Just an endless stretch of highway cutting through frozen fields. The kind of road where your mind drifts if you let it. I'd been driving nights long enough to know better than to relax too much. It was close to 3:00 a.m. Traffic had thinned out completely. No oncoming cars, no taillights ahead. Just me, my headlights, and the steady rhythm of the road. That's when I felt it, not saw it, felt it. That pressure you get when another vehicle is nearby. The subtle awareness that you're not as alone as you thought. I checked my mirrors. Nothing directly behind me. No headlights, no reflection. I dismissed it and kept driving. A few minutes later, the feeling came back, stronger this time. Like something was pacing me, just out of sight. I checked my mirrors again, more carefully. Still nothing. I adjusted the passenger side mirror slightly, angling it wider. That's when I caught it. Not clearly, just enough to spike my adrenaline. A faint glow, not behind me. not beside me. In my blind spot, I leaned forward, craning my neck, trying to get a better angle. The glow disappeared the moment I looked directly at it. I told myself it was a reflection from my own lights. Fatigue does that. Night driving plays tricks on your eyes. But the feeling didn't go away. Every time I relaxed, every time my focus drifted forward, it came back. That sense of something matching my speed, staying perfectly aligned where I couldn't see it. I turned on the CB. Anyone running westbound out here tonight? Static. I waited a few seconds, then tried again. Nothing. No voices. No laughter. No confirmation that I wasn't alone. My heart rate climbed despite myself. I sped up slightly. The pressure stayed. I slowed down. It stayed with me. That's when fear crept in. Quiet, controlled, the kind that doesn't make you panic right away. The kind that tells you something is wrong before your brain catches up. I flicked on my right turn signal, then drifted slightly toward the shoulder, just enough to force whoever was there to either fall back or pass. Nothing happened. The glow remained, perfectly tucked into my blind spot. At this point, my hands were slick with sweat. I rolled down the window, letting cold air rush into the cab, hoping it would snap me out of it. The sound of the wind was loud, grounding. Then I heard something else, a low hum. Not my engine, not the tires. It was coming from outside the cab, just below the window line. I rolled the window back up. The sound stopped. I don't know why I did it, but I turned on the interior cab light. The sudden brightness made me feel exposed, like I'd licked myself up on a dark stage. For a brief moment, I saw movement in the mirror. Not a vehicle. A shape. Tall. Narrow. Wrong. It vanished the instant I tried to focus on it. My stomach dropped. I didn't think anymore. I reacted. I signaled hard and took the next exit without checking speed or distance. The ramp curved away from the highway, plunging into darkness lit only by my headlights. The pressure vanished the moment I left the main road. I pulled over at the end of the ramp and stopped, my chest heaving, heart pounding in my ears. I sat there for a long time, staring at my mirrors, half expecting something to step into view. Nothing did. Eventually, I got out of the truck, needing to see with my own eyes. The night was dead silent. No wind, no insects, no distant traffic, just empty land and stars. When I climbed back into the cab, my dash clock caught my attention. 3:17 a.m. I don't know how long I'd been driving with that thing beside me. It felt like minutes and hours at the same time. I didn't get back on the highway right away. I waited until another vehicle passed, its headlights sweeping across the ramp. Only then did I merge back on. The rest of the drive was quiet. No pressure, no glow, no hum. But ever since that night, I check my blind spots obsessively. Not just with mirrors, with instinct. Because some things don't follow you from behind. They stay where you can't see them. Close enough to reach you if they decide to. This story hits differently because there was no clear pursuit. No headlights chasing. No footsteps closing in. Just presence. Whatever stayed in his blind spot didn't need to be seen to be felt. It understood exactly where to position itself. Close enough to influence him, hidden enough to avoid being identified. Some threats don't announce themselves. They wait where you're least able to look and rely on you feeling them instead. I believe that feeling it is worse than seeing it. The sensation is very disturbing. Comment with your opinion. What was that? I want to understand what you think. Leave a like, and let's move on to the last account. There is a point during night driving when the road stops feeling like a place and starts feeling like a loop. I've hit that point before. Anyone who drives long hours has. Usually, a coffee or a rest stop breaks it. That night, nothing did. I was hauling freight through eastern Oregon. A forest-heavy route I didn't love but had driven enough times to trust. No towns for miles, no houses, no cell signal. Just trees pressing in on both sides of the highway like walls. It was around 2:40 a.m. when I first noticed something wasn't right. My GPS said I was 37 miles from the next checkpoint. That was normal. What wasn't normal was that 20 minutes later, it still said 37 miles. I told myself it was lagging. That happens out there. I glanced at the odometer. I'd definitely been moving. Speed steady. Fuel dropping like it should. Still, the distance didn't change. I shut the GPS off and focused on the road, trying not to let the thought dig in. Forest blurred past in my peripheral vision, branches catching my headlights and disappearing just as quickly. A few minutes later, I realized something else. I'd passed the same broken mile marker twice. The same crack down the middle, the same faded numbers barely visible in my lights. That's when the quiet inside the cab turned oppressive. I slowed slightly, heart thudding, watching the road ahead with new intensity. Every curve felt familiar, too familiar. Like I wasn't discovering the road as I drove it, but remembering it. The forest didn't change. No brakes, no clearings, no signs. I checked the clock. 2:57 a.m. I hadn't noticed time moving. It felt like I'd been stuck in that stretch for much longer than 17 minutes. That's when I started feeling watched. Not from behind, not from the trees, from ahead. The sensation crawled up my spine, the feeling that something was waiting further down the road, measuring how close I was getting. I pushed the accelerator harder, needing distance between me and whatever that feeling was attached to. The engine responded. The road didn't. Another mile marker passed. The same one. My mouth went dry. I turned on the radio, desperate for any sound that wasn't my own breathing. Music crackled in for a moment, then dissolved into static. Not dead air, active static. Like something interrupting the signal, rather than the signal being lost. I shut it off. That's when I noticed the headlights. Not behind me. Ahead, far down the road, barely visible between the trees. At first, I felt relief. Proof that the road continued. Proof that someone else was out there. But the lights weren't moving closer. And they weren't getting farther away. They stayed fixed in the same spot, no matter how long I drove. My chest tightened. I checked my speed again. Still moving. Still covering ground. Yet the distance between us never closed. The headlights flickered once. Then again. Then they shut off completely. The darkness ahead felt thicker after that. Heavier, like the road had swallowed something and was waiting for me to catch up. Ahead, I slowed to a near crawl. That's when I realized the forest had gone silent. No wind, no insects, no distant wildlife. Just my engine and the sound of my own heartbeat. I pulled over. The moment the truck stopped, the feeling snapped into focus. I wasn't stuck on the road. The road was keeping me. I sat there gripping the wheel, staring forward, afraid that if I looked away even for a second, something would appear where the headlights had been. Something close enough that it wouldn't need to move toward me anymore. I don't know how long I sat there. The clock said 3:11 a.m., but time had stopped meaning anything. Eventually, I did the only thing I could think of. I turned the truck around. The moment I did, the GPS flickered back on by itself. Distance to checkpoint, 36 miles. I didn't stop again. I didn't slow down. I drove until the forest thinned and the road finally opened up into something recognizable. I made it to my destination just before dawn. Later, when I checked the route history, there was a gap in the data. Nearly 40 minutes unaccounted for. No signal, no movement recorded. I still don't take that road at night. Not because I'm afraid of getting lost, but because I'm afraid that next time, the road won't let me leave at all. There is a specific kind of fear that doesn't come from what you see. It comes from realizing reality itself has stopped behaving the way it should. Nothing chased him. Nothing attacked him. And yet, something controlled the road, the distance, the time. Stories like this hit harder because they remove the idea of escape. If a road can loop, if distance can lie, if time can simply disappear, then logic stops being protection. Long-haul drivers talk about this more than people realize. Stretches of highway that feel conscious. Routes that seem to watch, test, or delay you until you notice. And once you notice, you're already part of it. The most disturbing part isn't the missing 40 minutes. It's the thought that the road let him go only when it decided to. And next time, it might not be in such a forgiving mood. If there's one pattern connecting every story you've heard tonight, it's this. The danger didn't announce itself. It didn't rush in screaming. It waited. A gift that slowly dismantled a life. A presence that fed on illness and silence. A road that bent time until reality itself felt unreliable. These aren't monsters you can run from. They're the kind of horrors that settle in quietly. In your home, in your routines, in the places you trust the most. And that's what makes them so unsettling. Because if these stories are true, then the question isn't, what was haunting them? It's how close has something like this already come to you? Before you go, check the end screen. There is another story waiting that connects disturbingly well with what you just heard. If any part of this video made you uncomfortable in a way you can't quite explain, make sure you like the video. It tells me to keep bringing you these kinds of stories. And if you don't want to miss the next one, subscribe, because some stories don't stay buried forever. And whatever you do, be careful what you accept and where you choose to stop. Thanks for watching and see you the next video. Bye.